The diner was quiet that evening, the kind of quiet that wraps around you like a worn blanket after a long day. Outside, rain streaked the windows in silver lines, blurring the neon glow of the open sign. Inside, the air smelled of brewed coffee, fried onions, and something sweet that lingered at the edge of memory. Ethan Carter sat in the corner booth, his daughter Lily tucked beside him. She was 8, small for her age, with long brown hair that always seemed to fall into her eyes no matter how many times he brushed it back. She was coloring on the back of a menu, her tongue poking from the corner of her mouth in deep concentration. He watched her, and for a moment, the exhaustion of his day softened. Ethan had been running since dawn, packing Lily's lunch, driving her to school, working his shift at the auto shop, picking her up, and now here, trying to give her something close to normal. Normal. The word ached in his chest. Ever since Lily's mother had left 3 years ago, life had been anything but. Have you ever had someone vanish from your world, leaving you with silence where their laughter used to be? That was Ethan's every day. He had learned to survive it, but survival was different than living. "Daddy," Lily whispered, tugging at his sleeve. "Can I get the pancakes? Even if it's night?" He smiled faintly. "Yeah, kiddo, pancakes it is. You deserve it." Their waitress approached then, balancing a pot of coffee and a tired but genuine smile. Her name tag read Sophie. She couldn't have been more than 25, with chestnut hair tied back in a messy ponytail. There were faint shadows under her eyes, the kind that didn't come from just one night of lost sleep but from 100 nights piled on top of each other. "Evening, hun," she said warmly, refilling Ethan's mug. "What can I get you two tonight?" "Pancakes for her," Ethan replied, nodding toward Lily, "and the meatloaf special for me." "Pancakes at night, huh?" Sophie winked at Lily. "Best choice on the menu, if you ask me. I'll make sure they're extra fluffy." Lily giggled, and Ethan felt a strange gratitude toward this stranger who could bring out joy in his daughter with so little effort. It reminded him of how rare kindness could feel in a world that often seemed indifferent. Sophie scribbled down the order and disappeared into the kitchen. Ethan leaned back, running a hand over his face. The fatigue in his bones felt endless, but he had no choice. He couldn't let Lily see how heavy it all was. When Sophie returned with their food, Ethan noticed something odd. As she set the plates down, her hand trembled slightly, and she gripped the edge of the table as if to steady herself. He frowned, but before he could ask if she was all right, she flashed another quick smile and walked off to check on another table. The meal went on quietly. Lily devoured her pancakes, Ethan forced down the meatloaf, and the rain outside thickened into a steady downpour. He found his gaze drifting toward Sophie more than once. There was something in the way she moved, too carefully, too controlled, as if each step was measured against some unseen weight. Then it happened. As she carried a tray of empty glasses back to the counter, Sophie stopped mid-step. Her face paled, her eyes widened, and the tray slipped from her hands, shattering across the linoleum. She clutched at her chest, gasping, and then her body went rigid. For one horrifying moment, she simply stopped breathing. The diner froze. A couple in the next booth stared in shock, the cook shouted from behind the counter, but no one moved. Except Ethan. Instinct roared through him. He slid out of the booth so fast his chair toppled backward. "Lily, stay here," he barked, his voice sharper than he intended. His daughter's wide, frightened eyes locked on him as he ran toward Sophie. She collapsed to the floor, her body limp. Ethan dropped to his knees beside her. "Sophie, hey, can you hear me?" His hands shook, but his voice was steady. He pressed 2 fingers to her neck. There was a pulse, faint and rapid, but her chest wasn't moving. Adrenaline surged, drowning out the diner's shocked whispers. He tilted her head back, cleared her airway, and started rescue breaths. Her lips were cold, her body frighteningly still. Have you ever been in a moment when the world narrowed to a single heartbeat, and you realized it wasn't your own? "Call 911, Ethan shouted, and someone fumbled for their phone. He kept going, breaths and compressions, his mind racing. Images of Lily flashed behind his eyes, of the night she was born, of the first time he held her tiny body and swore he'd always protect her. He couldn't let this woman die, not here, not in front of his daughter, not while he still had the strength in his hands. Time became strange, stretching and folding in on itself. 1 second, 2, 3, then at last, Sophie convulsed, coughing violently. Ethan rolled her gently onto her side as she sucked in a ragged gasp of air, tears of relief stinging his eyes. Her chest rose. She was breathing again. Ethan closed his eyes for a brief moment, whispering a thank you to whatever force had given her back that fragile breath. When he looked up, he saw Lily staring at him from the booth, her tiny fists clenched, her face pale with fear, but her eyes were shining with something else. And in that moment, Ethan realized, sometimes, the smallest acts of courage weren't just about saving someone else's life. They were about showing the people who depended on you what it meant to be human. The hospital lights hummed overhead, sterile and unrelenting, as Ethan paced the corridor. His hands were raw from where he'd clenched them too tightly during the ambulance ride. Lily sat on the plastic bench, hugging her knees, her wide eyes darting every time a doctor walked by. He had done what he could. He had given Sophie back her breath in the diner, cradling her like fragile glass until the paramedics stormed in. But now, here in this place of beeping machines and antiseptic air, he was helpless. He hated it, the waiting, the not knowing. Finally, a doctor in pale scrubs approached. Ethan straightened immediately, his heart clawing its way into his throat. "She's stable," the doctor said. "Your quick response saved her life. She had a sudden arrhythmia, her heart stopped momentarily, which caused her to stop breathing. We're running more tests to understand why. Do you know if she has a history of cardiac issues?" Ethan shook his head. "I barely know her. She's a waitress at the diner I go to. I just reacted." The doctor gave him a long, searching look. "Well, whatever your connection, she owes her life to you tonight." As the doctor walked away, Ethan exhaled, his knees weak with relief. He turned to Lily, who was watching him with an expression he couldn't quite name. "Daddy," she whispered. "Yeah, Bug, you looked like a superhero," she said. Her voice trembled, but her eyes were fierce, as if she wanted to believe it more than anything. Ethan knelt beside her, brushing hair from her face. "I'm not a superhero, Lily. I'm just a dad who couldn't stand by and watch. Have you ever had someone look at you as if you were larger than life, when all you felt was small and terrified inside?" That was how Ethan felt under his daughter's gaze. Hours passed before a nurse finally allowed them to step into Sophie's room. She lay against white sheets, her skin pale, an IV taped to her arm. Machines beeped softly, but her chest rose and fell in steady rhythm. Her eyes fluttered open when Ethan stepped closer. "You," she croaked, her voice hoarse. "You were there." "Yeah," Ethan said gently. "It's okay, you're safe now." She studied him, confusion and gratitude swirling in her tired gaze. Then tears welled, surprising even her. I thought I was going to die on that floor." Ethan pulled a chair closer. "You almost did." The words hung heavy in the room. Lily clutched Ethan's hand, peeking from behind his shoulder at the fragile woman in the bed. "Why didn't you tell anyone?" Ethan asked softly. "Didn't you know something was wrong?" Sophie looked away, her lips trembling. "I knew," she admitted. "But I couldn't afford to stop. Rent, bills, my sister's college tuition, I worked double shifts just to keep us afloat. If I stopped to see a doctor, everything would come crashing down." Her voice cracked. "So I kept pushing. I thought I could push forever." Ethan's chest ached at her words. He recognized the stubborn desperation of someone who had been carrying too much for too long. It mirrored his own life in ways he hadn't expected. "Sometimes," he said quietly, "pushing isn't strength. Sometimes, it's what breaks you." She met his eyes then, and for a fleeting second, the weight of her burdens was laid bare between them, two people, strangers really, bound by invisible scars. Sophie reached for his hand. "Thank you," she whispered, "for not letting me die." The warmth of her fragile grip seeped into him. He had saved her body, yes. But now, looking at her, Ethan wondered if maybe saving her life meant more than just keeping her heart beating.